report.
This is Type B Development Corporation and Park Board Council, September 12th, 2022, 7:15 p.m. 7:34 p.m. Excuse me. Type B Economic Development Corporation and Parks Board will hold a regular meeting in the council chambers located 101 South Main Street, Knoxville, Texas, on September 12th, 2022. Meeting is subject to the open meeting law of the state of Texas. Any Zoom members,
No, sir.
are there anybody that wants to speak tonight?
No, sir.
Call this meeting to order and now form president. Regular agenda review and discuss questions related to the budget report and financial statement for August of 2022. Mr. Pinknott.
Well, we are currently have collected an additional $117,000, almost $118,000 over our projected budget revenues. Looks like that probably going to be able to maybe turn back a little money that won't be used, around 50,000 or so. We've got a few areas that were over just in regular line item stuff with the park, nothing significant. Most of it was some repairs and some things we had to do for the splash pad for some new state requirements to monitor levels of some amoeba. But anyway, all that stuff has been done. So you're in good shape. I'll take any questions.
So we're not hiring back for parking lot.
Yeah, and what we did was I asked the Type A board tonight to cover that debt, since they actually own all of the parking lot. We probably should have done it that way anyway, just done the 380 with Type A versus Type B. So there's a $86,000 and some change remaining that Type B is, we've been using sales tax to pay that back quarterly. Type A is just going to pay it all and wipe it out, and that'll come off of your books as a liability. And that'll show I didn't ask them to pay back any because you really haven't paid that much. You've only made 2 payments and they were startup. You're not talking about a whole lot of money. But
something that's basically going to come off the monthly.
Yeah, you'll see the 380 agreement line item budget's already done and submitted, so it probably won't be amended until mid-year. We'll take it off at that point, so you'll still see it. You just won't be paying for it. And they did approve to do that, so.
Pinknott concerning the financial statement. Discuss, consider possible action on minute meetings. Excuse me, August the 8th, 2022. Everybody take time to read over the minute meetings. I'll accept the motion to approve or disapprove.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
They got a motion on it for Alderman and a second by Bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes unanimously. 3 is discuss, consider, and possible action on approval of proposed update JDA usage agreement. Mr. Dee's not here. I guess you're going to speak to this.
Yeah. So I met with Dustin and we had some conversations based on the issues that unfortunately got him put back in as the president of that board. He's got a pretty good board working now. He's about got a lot of the stuff cleaned up. So we went ahead and took the opportunity to actually kind of strengthen our agreement a little bit, give us a little more, I don't want to say control, but it provides some protections for some of the things that were going on that we're trying to prevent. One is the subletting of the use of the fields to other groups of players, other leagues, mainly select leagues. Any of that will be done now through City Hall. That will not be done through JVA. And we've kind of put that in red in the agreement so that that was one of the sections that was changed by when they created a new document in order to get that agreement with that outside agency done. So we cleaned that up. We've also stopped outside teams outside of the JVA from regularly using the property without a separate agreement with this board. We changed any of those outside agencies or teams that want to say practice on the fields on weekends or whatever, that'll have to be done separately in agreement with this board through the city. So JVA won't be doing that. And then we also strengthened up, we increased the compensation to the city for tournaments. Instead of went from $20 a team to $100 a team. And that was agreed upon. And then we wrote in 2 days a week that are mandatory that there is no ball play on the fields. In those days, we initially had it scheduled for Wednesday and Sunday. Those were the original days when we opened the park that there was no games allowed or practices allowed. And it gave us time to kind of rehab fields and get them good and irrigated and give a little downtime. So we amended that to at their request. They asked for Wednesdays and Fridays. They do sometimes do makeup games on the weekends, and they wanted Sunday to be available for that. That was fine. We agreed to that. I didn't have an issue with that. We've also reminded them that all ball play has to be concluded by 11 o'clock. And we were looking at ways to put something in place. There's been oftentimes they leave up there at night and the lights are on the fields and they stay on all night long. And they drive the neighbors across the street crazy because those lights are so bright, they shine into those windows over there. So we're never wondering if they leave the lights on. We normally know about it very quickly the next morning. Rather than try to be the bully on the block and charge them anytime that happens, we decided to take the high road and understand that sometimes it is going to happen. We've had a lock box installed on the outside of the concession stand door that has keys to the door in it, so police could have access. And then we put timers on the lights. And we did that some time ago, that they will automatically shut off at 11 o'clock regardless. So if there's a time that they leave, say practice is over at 8:30 or 9, if the coach that's there doesn't have access to the concession stand, you can't turn the lights off. They can either have that code to get in, or if it doesn't turn off or they're on before then, the police can turn them off. So we thought, that was okay to do. I don't want to take the profits from them. I want them to stay in business because I don't want to operate baseball, but I think that works out pretty well. Dustin agreed to that. I'll say he agreed in concept. This will still go to their board as well for approval, but all of the changes, they're making some progress on the nonprofit status. That stuff is still ongoing, but I think they have got, he's talked about their board has made some progress getting some things done. So I think we're back on the right track. And I don't expect we'll have any more issues.
So I do worry about their nonprofit status. Do they have an ETA? Because I don't think it looks very good if we are taking money from someone who isn't got the right designations with the
Well,
Secretary of State.
They are not, my understanding is they are not advertising as a nonprofit and they are paying taxes on everything that they purchase. So I don't know the firm that's working on this for them. But I do trust it when Dustin tells me that they're making progress, that they are. And I think it's going to take several months to get there once you lose it. I mean, it's not the way everybody's backed up and it's, you know, it may take some time to do, but so I think we're, like I say, they're not representing that. We asked them prior to this to provide some documentation they were paying sales tax, and they did do that. So I don't think they're doing anything wrong. I think unfortunately they lost it.
Yeah, I
Now they
don't
got to
think
get
it's
it back.
step down. I just
Yeah.
worry about doing business with someone that doesn't have it corrected, but if they're working on it. And my other question is, I've been up there and like, I don't know who's a volunteer. There's people on the field that don't have badges. How do we know that? How are they protecting these kids from predators?
Well, the issuance of badges is something that the association does. Now Dustin did call me the other day about a coach that they did a background check on that they had a hit on. So as we normally do those things, those went to the police department. Our officers, detectives ran them in a different system, looked at what the issues were. They were all misdemeanors. They didn't involve any children. They were, and it was a class C. It was like getting a speeding ticket. So it was for drug paraphernalia. And I think the guy has a son that's playing, and the PD cleared him to participate. Now, as far as my understanding is they're supposed to have the ID on that's issued by them. And if they don't have it on, then they're told to leave the field.
Okay, I know prior year when Justin ran it, they did have them, but when all the other stuff dropped, they did it. So like my main concern is, protection of those babies out there.
Yeah, he's bringing that back. And
Okay.
what's happened is, I know there's been a couple of instances where the person has refused to leave. They've called the police have talked to them and made them leave. And it usually hadn't been a problem. Normally, when we hear about it, it's kind of after the fact. And so we send them over to let them know that if it's a person that's not there, can't be there because of criminal history, they can still go to the park so long as it's not a crime that involves a child. They can still go and watch. They just can't get on the field. And we'll send an officer to go tell them.
When is their board supposed to ratify this agreement?
I don't know when their next board meeting is. I was hoping Dustin would be here to tell me that, but I'm not sure how often they meet. I can find out. And then that
I'd like
would,
to see if they're ratified before we ratify.
yeah, we'll come, if y'all don't have any changes, what we'll do is we'll have them signed and then we'll bring that back to y'all for approval next month once we have them all down. I just mainly wanted y'all to get your eyes on this to if you have any questions.
This is gonna be on the back page. All 1.2.
Oh, yeah, this is just an example for them to, when they want to report something, but yeah, we can change that.
So, I guess the question I have with this board is, are we gonna make a motion on this tonight? Or we
No,
gonna
we don't. No, we don't need a motion. What we'll do once they sign it, then we'll bring it back to you guys to formally approve it. And the only thing I'm not sure about is okay. I just wanted to make sure that it didn't require Dustin to sign on both places, but it doesn't, so we're fine.
further discussion for the JDA agreement? If not, we'll move on to item 4, discuss and give direction on park improvements and time frame for implementation.
Oh, boy. So what's that? We have been talking to all kinds of people about the park and improvements and getting some numbers put together. And we've got a few just little examples for y'all to look at. And then some numbers and to kind of find out what your direction is. So the discussion has been updating the implements that are in the park. One of the toddler playground has got some pretty significant damage to it. It has not really favored well because what we have found out is it's advertised as commercial playground property, but it's really not. It's more of the daycare level of stuff, I think. I don't think it was really hardy enough for the use that it gets. The other stuff is a lot of it is held out pretty well. It's a lot's getting sun faded. We're starting to replace things on it. The mulch is always an issue. Drainage with all the mulch in there and the mold and stuff that grows because the mulch decomposes and it clogs up the drainage. And so it's really just kind of not a great idea. Well, the alternative is we actually were looking at, well, you can put rubber mulch in there, but that really doesn't help you much. The mulch tends to get thrown out by the kids out into the everywhere. So we've looked at the rubber surfacing, which is very expensive. And they actually recommended AstroTurf. That's a less cost or more cost effective that they think will get, equal use out of with the rest of the implements. And they can't throw it out all over the place. It's cushioned a little bit. So if somebody falls there, it's not like hitting concrete and laying grass over it. It'll be kind of like the football field. It'll have a rubber.
We have that in the park over there.
Do you?
Big park, actually. It is so soft, and then you don't have maintenance with it.
Right.
It is very nice, and people really like it. They like the mother playing the children. Softness. Just
One of the benefits versus the rubber is it's not going to get hot.
Oh, he will park.
So my concern with the rubber was that it would get hot if it was in the direct sunlight. This stuff will not. Of course, we're talking about shades over part of it too to help with that. But so we have some stuff here and we've put together some numbers just to kind of to go by. We have not put any of this in your upcoming budget. And the reason was because we weren't sure what direction you were going to take. And we have to do a public hearing just to do this anyway. But for the playground, what you see on the first page there, and I think I even wrote that $200,000 in there. That's a pretty big setup, much bigger than what we have. Much nicer. We've also talked about rehabbing the splash pad. It's got some leaks. It's got some equipment that needs to be replaced. Resurface mastic, getting that thing back up to snuff at $107,000. The basketball court, some person got on there and did some donuts and spun down, peeled off part of that coating down to the concrete. So we've looked at to fix it, to resurface that is $15,000. We got a price on some fencing. One is to fence that basketball court with a heavy chain link fence. That'll keep the cars off of it, but it also keeps the basketballs out of the pond. Every now and then one will find its way down there and end up in the water, and then you got somebody in the water, and that's something that we've been requested by a lot of them that they've got some organized groups, local businesses have teams, and they compete a little bit with one another. That if you haven't noticed, that basketball court's in use almost every night. They use it quite a bit. So that fencing is in there, and it's $40,000, but that also includes a pole and cable barrier all the way around the park that would keep people from driving into the grass. We've had trees run over, we've had landscaping damage, we've had sprinkler systems damaged, trash cans hit. It's about the only thing that hasn't happened is so far no fool has driven off into the pond. In past, we've talked about a fence similar to this, they're like 6-inch posts go into the ground and the steel cable runs through them. It's not a fence where they've said in the past, we don't want it to look like a prison yard or something like that. It's not a chain link fence, it's just one cable. It would go all the way across the Main Street front side, all the way down the drive and around the parking spaces to prevent people from getting in. And we would have a couple of access points for our vehicles if we needed to get in there for something, for maintenance, emptying trash and service and things. But again, there's always been some hesitancy about fencing the park just because of the look of it. We've had some things now where there's been some damage done that if y'all want to consider that. We've also got some numbers to replace all of the signage. I think that $25,000 estimate's a little high, but we're going to come away from the cedar, the wood post that we're having trouble with, getting pieces of it broken and knocked off, weed eaters chewing up the bottoms of them. So we're going to go with some type of metal, aluminum or steel post that we can, paint and color and make it not the round ones where it looks like a street sign, but do something that's kind of decorative and looks nice. In shade structures, you have tons of options for those. And what we did was we had some over the playground equipment, over the splash pad, some of the seating, replacing. You've got in your budget to replace some of the benches out there or actually add for. And a lot of these implements that if we replace them, we're gonna take them out ourselves. Probably send them off to get powder coated, get them a fresh coat of paint on them, and then reuse them in these next two parks coming up. We think there's still some life in them. They'll be used less in those smaller neighborhood parks. And I think will be a cost-effective option for us to put some picnic benches and stuff out there and replace some of these that we're having trouble with. So in essence, you're looking at, all of this put together. This said, if you took on all of this at once, you're talking about a $600,000 investment. And that could go higher depending on options that you choose. You may find that you want to do more playground stuff. You might want to do a different type of shade structure. I can see that number going higher depending on what you want to do. We would also put in place, I finished up a draft. You'll see it at your next meeting of a park maintenance policy that's going to include maintenance on this equipment, periodic inspections on this equipment, documentation on how things are working and how the maintenance goes to where we can pay more attention to do more than just mowing the park. I don't think we need to increase the staff at this point to do that. I think, and they agree that there's adequate staffing for it. I don't think we're going to run into problems there. The question is, and I'm sorry, this also includes a new type of door lock that is much more resistant to people getting in there wanting to spend the night and doing whatever they do in the park restrooms. Those are included too. You're also getting included in our IT upgrades, a camera system that will cover the whole park. There'll be Wi-Fi installed in the park that'll work all over. We can transmit that film so that it can be stored off-site, so they can't get in and take something. Cameras will be put up high enough, they're not gonna be able to reach them to take them down. There's our IT consulting firm is working on that plan now. It'll cover baseball and the park, splash pad, basketball court, all the aspects where people go will be covered. And so we can dial those in and watch them. The police will be able to pull them up on their laptops in their cars if they wanted to. And we're probably going to put some sort of an alarm on the concession stand. We haven't had a break in there in a few years. We've had a few try to get in there, but we just about got it burglar proof. If they have anything less than a K-12, they won't be able to get in there. But those things are being covered through ARPA funds, through federal funding for ARPA money. So that's not going to cost y'all anything. So the question we need tonight is this something that you guys want to take on one piece at a time? Do you want to do
What
it?
kind of warranty do we have? Because I know like on the current part stuff, like we can't even get some of it fixed because it's so out of date. Like,
Yeah,
what
it's all over 10 years old. I'd have to look and see. The warranties, I'm sure, are going to vary on each individual piece. I'd be surprised if they're any more than a year. Maybe
You said
two,
the
I don't know.
quality was a lot better. And as
Yeah.
long as we maintain.
Well, the stuff
the
that,
budget
this,
to maintain the equipment.
yeah, the stuff that we have on the first playground, the one directly behind the pavilion, that is all commercial stuff. And it's lasted fine with the exception of a couple of little implements that had springs on them that were made for toddlers to play on that the adults got on and broke the springs. So we wouldn't do, but the other stuff, we'd have to find out about. I have specifically asked them about the warranties. I believe in the park though, when we built that one, those implements had a 1-year warranty.
I was just curious.
So you will likely would need to issue a little bit of debt if you took all of this on, but your payout terms would, the use would exceed that very
Would this
easily.
have to go with open hearings?
I'm sorry,
Would this project have to go with?
public hearings?
Public hearings?
Yes. Yeah, you would. Any park project y'all take on has to go through a public hearing. So we would also, we're gonna try to put together a quick survey that we can send out, find out, if there's something specific people would like. There's been suggestions of disc golf. I know there was a council member that was a proponent of putting a sand volleyball thing. And I think we've kind of, from talking to other cities, found enough reason why we shouldn't do that. Well, and it's easy to hide glass in the sand and it's keeping the cats out and it's just, it'd be a maintenance nightmare, quite frankly. But there are some things that we can put out there. I did check with Parks and Wildlife. We can put a disc golf set up out there and not violate the terms of the open space. Some of those spaces that are open in the park are there required by the grant that they have to remain open space, and that is not construction enough that bothers them like a parking lot would, or building some other, putting a swimming pool in over there. Those would be things that would violate that agreement and have to pay that money back, but a disc golf would not. However, I don't know that I would schedule any disc golf in that park until we have a resolution on the golf course. That would be the place for a disc golf. On And I guess, is that where you frisbee, am I
Mhm.
calling it right? Is
You
it
are.
this?
Yeah.
Flinging a frisbee off, I
Yeah.
fail to see how that's fun, but I understand a lot of people do it.
Yeah, and there's enough room at that park for a 9-hole disc golf area, and it would bring in a whole different group of people in there, mostly the dads or between 15, 35. And so the dads would play while the kids are doing their thing over at the park. And you can put a 9-hole in there, probably about $2,500 for everything.
So some of these things that I put in here are, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but park's kind of dull. We want to put a little color, a little life into the place. So the shade structures, we've talked about doing different colored canvas, and doing the sail type setup where, you can do all different colors in there. We've also talked about more than one color on the splash pad. Initially, the design of it showed multiple colors. I don't know why that's not what was actually put there, but in the basketball court as well, there's a couple of examples in here of basketball courts that are just broken up with color. And I think it just adds a little bit. So thoughts, opinions, recommendations?
Well, my opinion is we just go ahead and bite the bullet and get some finance to do that 600,000 to do everything. Some of this will be used in other parts that we're going to create. So.
Yeah, and I think
Bite the bullets, buy stuff for that, we know.
we're going to get some numbers on the cost to powder coat some of this stuff and make sure we can get parts but I think the swing sets, I mean, a lot of the stuff coming out of there can be reused. The benches, picnic tables, for some reason, that people just like to unscrew that teak wood. I've yet to figure out why, because they don't take the wood. I don't know.
Are they with the safety bolts? They have the
Yes.
safety bolts in them?
Yep. And they still get them out. I don't understand it. I'm hoping that the cameras will help us where we can see one of these fools and see what is happening. I shouldn't call them that.
Kids going around on basketball court?
No, there's no cameras on the basketball court because there's no power out there to light one up. Well, there wasn't, there is now. We've had power added to a lot of the poles out there so that we can put things on the light poles. There's people that want to decorate the park for Christmas, Alice. And so we've had some plugs installed. We can't do a whole lot. I'm resistant to put plugs in the ground because they'll chew up the irrigation system. And it finally works, all of it. And I don't want to jack with it. But we have put them on just about every light pole that's out there. We can put a plug on up high enough so that people won't, give us grief.
Stephen's gonna have 3 different structures, theme structures for them to look at next month.
Say that again.
He's gonna have 3 different theme structures, playground structures for them to look at.
Oh,
Give
okay.
them an idea.
Alice was telling me that at the next meeting, the Noah's Park playground folks will have 3 separate play structures for y'all to look at and kind of give you some ideas of what they can do. They have a pretty good website. If any of you want to go to that, this Noah's Park and Playground, they have a website that has, I think I put some pictures of the turf in here, but they got a lot of pictures of all the different implements, shade structures that look like butterflies. Sure you want to do that, but I don't know how much shade that puts out, but it does provide some color. But there's some options out there that if you look at and you have specific interest in, if you will let me know or Alice know, we can make sure we get prices for those specific items. So I think this is going to be a 2 or 3 month process to go through this and really look at the stuff, get some feedback from the community, see how much response we can get off of social media and you know, is there a playground theme? They've got some really neat train playgrounds if you wanted to theme the stuff. I mean, there's a lot, that website's got a lot of really neat stuff on it. I'm sure the more impressive it is, the more it costs. But I learned a long time ago that anything that has the word park in it, the price automatically goes up significantly.
600,000, that doesn't include this.
The installation stuff is, we actually help do that. They will send people to
Supervisor.
supervise, and the community actually builds the structure. Now, the playground, the installation is included, the basketball court, the fence, splash pad. The only thing that installation is not included in is the playground structure. Now, I would guess they would do the turf.
They do the turf
Yeah,
completely.
we won't do that. We'll have to dig all the mulch out and leave it slick for them. And they would, the walls that we have, the little retaining walls we have around it, those would stay. That would be what the level of the grass would come up to, or the turf.
And what we're looking at or getting ideas from will be ADA compliant. So that'll help the park.
Yeah, we do have to keep it ADA compliant. But there's,
I don't see a handicap swing, so we would have one.
Yes.
that's another reason about going to the turf, because when you do that, now you've got access with a wheelchair, whereas the mulch, you really don't. I'm not sure how they didn't catch that when the ADA inspectors were here, because every 10 foot, they put their level down to make sure that grade was just right. We actually had to tear out 2 or 3 sections of the sidewalk to change it because it was off. I don't know why the playground stuff, I don't know how it got by, and maybe it was required at the point. At that point, I don't know, but we do need to keep it all. The picnic benches are ADA compliant. We do have to keep all those.
So what you need to do is wait till the survey comes back in and gives us an idea of what the community wants.
Well, we don't have to. I mean, I'm just as interested in y'all's input also. But I think you would be doing yourself a service if you go take a look at this website, because there is tons of stuff on there that if I'd have tried to print all that off, you'd be looking at a catalog tonight. But it's very easy to navigate. There's a really nice index on the left side, and the shade structures are separated from these units here, the slides, the trains. I mean, you can pretty much go through and pick out whatever you want. Basketball courts, tennis courts, they have it all.
I say we spend the 600,000 at once. Survey the public, make sure that we're putting in what they want to put in, like we're all kind of on common ground, what we want. Just, that's my opinion.
Is that the consensus of the board? So from there, what we'll do then is we'll start gathering our information, and we'll bring this guy to you to give you some different options with pricing. We'll start working on what the financing would look like. I doubt that any internal financing they have would compete with what we can issue debt through Samco. But I don't think they can. I don't think they can get there. So, but we'll get that information for you, and we'll have that for you as soon as we kind of get an idea of a number. And I'll get Joanna to get me a good projection on your fund balance at the end of the year. Some of this you might want to pay for up front and not finance. You just may want to pay for it.
I would highly recommend you look at that structure.
Okay, good.
And-
Part of that 600.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And with the turf, you can do different colors. So if there is a theme, you can make that turf for that area to go along with it to make it look really nice.
I guess the direction we're giving, staff is to go ahead and look at things to cover 600,000 total.
Need a motion for that?
No,
No.
I'm just saying that the direction is that everybody's direction on board so far. If not, speak up now.
Are you guys, I know everybody in this room hates evening time meetings, but it could become necessary to do a month with some optional stuff if we needed to do a public hearing and wanted to keep it only for the park, to just do it to hear from them. I don't know that we'll have to, but that may be something that we might float out to you guys, doing an alternate night, making sure we get everybody's input.
But maybe it's giving you heartburn.
It would give me heartburn if we didn't have to have another one. When you've been here since 7:30, it's time to go home. Right, Bill Funderburk?
Okay, question, Mr. Peacock.
Yes, sir.
We need to go to executive session. I don't see anything. on
We
that.
do
There's no
not, is that on here? I think it's
It's
just,
on there, but I just want to ask.
nope,
Okay,
There's no
so
executive.
we do not.
we're, I guess we're
Okay.
adjourned at 8:16?
Yes, sir.
8:16, we're adjourned.